All right, guys, and for this Blackheart Road aluminum bike in the size 58, we have a weight of 8.3 kilograms, and that is all in. So that includes the Wahoo mount, that includes one bottle cage, it includes both pedals, it includes a power meter, it includes these deep dish machine wheels, and then we have these 30C Continental GP5000 tubeless tires with like 60 milligrams of tubeless sealant included, 8.3 kilograms.
Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are taking a look at Blackheart's Road alloy frame set. And a huge shout out to Blackheart for sending me out this frame for testing and review for the upcoming season. And then in this video, we're going to be discussing just exactly who Blackheart is, the frame I chose and its specs. Of course, we're going to get this frame set weighed out, talk about the positives, the negatives, who this bike is for, and then of course, I'm going to talk about my experiences on this bike now that I've been able to ride it for a few weeks, despite it being super cold here in the winter time, putting it through all of its paces. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, before we get started, there are two things that I do want to mention. Number one, no matter how many carbon frame bikes I've built up over these past 4 years, I will always have a soft spot in my heart for alloy frames. Every year I seem to be building up some sort of new specialized LA Sprint, whether it's the rim brake version, the disc brake version, and I just love the specific dynamics that comes with an alloy frame set. And the second thing that I want to mention is over this past month, or at least these past 4 weeks, I've put a bunch of teaser photos on my Instagram stories showcasing this Blackheart alloy frame set, and the responses online have been overwhelmingly good. In fact, I've been pretty shocked, to be honest, particularly from the demographic of riders who appreciate classic aesthetics, custom colors, and especially wanting to support a boutique brand. And most importantly, a company where the owner has a great reputation of listening to customers and actually supporting the local cycling community. I've had plenty of chats with the owner of Blackheart, something that I really get to do with a lot of these brands I get to work with, and he's just an overall super cool and chill dude. And the brand seems to really resonate with the younger generation, and plenty of folks I know personally have nothing but great things to say about Zach. So first up, let's talk about exactly who Blackheart is. So Blackheart is based in California. They offer a variety of frames and complete builds ranging from alloy all-road bikes to their ever popular titanium road bike, a frame set that I'm hoping that I'll be able to try later in the spring or the summertime. And their mission is pretty simple. They want to build a cycling culture free from unwritten rules and pressures to conform. And I 100% endorse this, especially as someone who is constantly building up bikes from unknown brands that basically no one around here even knows about, completely separate from some of the bigger Western brands on the market today. Next up, let's talk about the particular frame set that I went with. So again, as I mentioned, guys, this is their Road alloy frame set, their AL frame set. I went with the size 58, which if you look at the geometry chart, this is more or less comparable to a 56 in some of the more Western brands on the market today. The custom paint option I went with is a crushed silver with frost white decals, and something that's new for 2025, and this is especially important for anyone who's considering buying this frame set. The custom color as well as the matching fork paint option all in is now $1,699 USD. I believe that's about $200 or $300 cheaper than what the original price was in years past. So it's clear that Blackheart is listening to customer demand, and it shows that they really do want to compete with some of the other comparable aluminum frames on the market today. Some of the other specs with this frame set, it comes with a UDH, a universal derailleur hanger, which is nice for future-proofing your bike builds moving forward. It includes an NV fork, which is a nice touch, and then a 31.6 round C-post. Now, if you do order a complete build, you are able to customize basically everything from the cockpit, the wheels, and even to the group set.
Living just enough for the city. Hey, shout out to Stevie Wonder with the LP Intervisions. Hey, some of y'all were making fun of my singing last time, especially you, Valiente Bello, but I'm gonna let it slide because without a doubt, you are my most loyal subscriber with all of your hilarious comments as well as your generous donations. But anyway, let's go ahead and weigh out this Blackheart
Road aluminum frame set in a size 58. Now, as you guys know, don't be expecting this frame to be the lightest frame set I've ever featured on this channel. I did remove the bottle cage bolts. I did remove, or it didn't include a front derailleur mount because I am probably going to go one by with this. And then, of course, the UDH rear derailleur hanger is included, as well as the seat post clamp. All right, and this is a size 58 with a custom color. So we have 1,685 grams, 1,685 grams. I want to say my Specialized LA Sprint came in at about like 1,550 grams in a comparable size. This is for the seat post, including with the clamp. We have 213 grams, 213 grams. And then finally, the uncut fork, 432 grams, 432 grams, which gives us a grand total for the entire frame set, 2,330 grams. So let's continue. Now, next up, let's talk about some of the positives with this frame set. So the most obvious one is it comes with that UDH, like I said, that universal derailleur hanger. This is fantastic for future-proofing your bike, as well as being able to use SRAM's latest T-type transmissions. Another feature that I really like on this is it comes with that round seat post, which is easy to upgrade, or should something happen with your seat post, should you break it, it should be pretty easy to find replacement seat posts on the market today. Another feature that I really like is the T47 outboard bottom bracket. What that means is it's super easy to thread in that bottom bracket at home. You just need a couple of special tools, but it'll be easy to remove to service that bottom bracket, and it's just a really nice touch that, of course, Blackheart has thought about. Another feature that I really like as far as positive goes is included with my specific build. It included an FSA number 69 headset system. I have used this headset system in the past over the last 4 years, and I really like this system because what this does is this allows you to route all of the hydraulic cables through the headset system, through the down tube, and it makes everything routed internally. And with that being said, this was by far the easiest bike build I've ever built up on this channel, being that you have such an easy bottom bracket, that T47 threaded bottom bracket to work with, as well as using that FSA number 69 headset system. I also really like the classic design of this frame set. In a world where we're so caught up in Aero bikes or that one bike to rule them all, sometimes it is nice to just be able to hop on a bike and then just have a bike that just has that very classic aesthetics to it. Another point that I really like with just the brand itself is being able to support an independent brand and essentially have direct access to the owner of the company. Now, because he basically is almost a one-man shop, he does a lot of the heavy lifting himself, from ordering to talking to customers, etc. And another thing I like about this frame as well is the fit and finish, particularly the areas around the headset. Now, if you were to inspect this frame yourself, you would see that these areas were basically flawless. And when it comes to pairing the frame set with that number 69 FSA headset system, the headset itself, the cap, it sits extremely well inside of the bearing cups, with just enough gap to fully compress or preload the headset, but not too much of a gap to allow water and grime to enter into the bearings. So all in all, it's clear that Zach at Blackheart, he carefully considered all the small details and nuances with this alloy frame set. Now, next up, let's talk about some of the negatives on there. They're just a handful. So the first one is the included compression plug should be longer. It actually should be a lot longer, especially if you are like myself and you plan to run spacers above your stem. The compression plug does need to be a bit longer. Now, this is really a fault from Envy, since the default plug is supplied directly from Envy with that included fork, but this is something that Blackheart should be considering moving forward, to have a longer compression plug. The second thing has to do with the tire clearance. Now, this is probably my biggest negative. Now, on the website, Blackheart says that you should be able to clear 34mm tires at the rim. I measured like 32, and I think even 32 is being generous. Maybe like on a dry day, you'll be able to pull this off, but I don't think on wet conditions or grime, you'll be able to fit 34 tires on there. The fork is not an issue, but it's where the that rear tire hits that rear seat stays. It's really tight back there. So I reckon you won't be able to fit anything wider in a 32, which is kind of a bummer if you do want to use this for like an all-road bike. But if that is your jam, Blackheart does offer up a fully official all-road frame set.
Okay, just a quick building quirk with this Blackheart alloy frame. So the bottom bracket I'm using, the ceramic bottom bracket, it's a T47 outboard bottom bracket. Included is this plastic sleeve, as you can see, that goes inside of the bottom bracket shell. However, the problem is, as you can see, is that the hydraulic brake cable for the rear caliper, it's blocking, which basically prevents this sleeve from going inside. Now you might be thinking maybe I just made the hydraulic cables either too long or too short, but that's not the problem at all. In fact, the actual issue here is that the angle of which the cable comes out from the rear of the frame to the front through the down tube, just the angle of it literally just prevents this from even moving up or down. So I always account for a little bit of extra slack in my hydraulic cables, just as a precautionary measure, but I can't even move it up or down because the angle. So essentially, in order for me to use this bottom bracket, I have to remove the plastic sleeve in order to thread in both sides so that this cable doesn't block it.
And then the last negative that I have on this, just a small one, it is the weight of this frame set. Obviously, it's aluminum, so it's not going to be the lightest climbing bike ever out on the road, but it is 164 grams heavier than a Specialized LA Sprint disc. Obviously, those are intended for two different types of rider, but it is something to note. But consider this, for only 164 grams heavier than the LA Sprint, when you consider a complete build, we're talking like 1 to 1.5%. I highly doubt you'll be able to feel the difference of 1% of a heavier bike.
Now, the reason I wanted to give you guys the complete weight on this particular bike build is due to the fact that because this is an aluminum frame bike, yes, it's going to be heavier than a comparable carbon frame bike. But let's just do the math here really quickly. So number one is these machined, the 607 wheels that are like 67 depth in the rear, 60 in the front. These wheels come in at about 1,500 grams. I could easily save like 300 grams if I switch to something like a number 6 wheel or a carbon speed wheel. Another point too is because I did include the pedals on here, if I were to weigh this out the industry standard way, where I remove the pedals, I remove the power meter, the mount, and then as well as the bottle cage, that's also like another 300 grams. And then if I were to swap out this cockpit for a integrated one-piece fully carbon cockpit, that's probably like another 100 grams. So really, by weighing this out the industry standard way, if that is important to you, this bike is more like 7.6, 7.7 kilograms, which is pretty decent for a very robust aluminum frame that has custom paint, and you get all the cool features that come with it, like a UDH rear derailleur hanger.
Now moving on, let's talk about who this bike is for. So this bike or this frame set is really for those who appreciate supporting a unique brand separate from the big brands. Someone that really appreciates classic proportions and simple designs. Just get on the bike, you know what you're getting into, and you're just ready to go. And then of course, if you are someone that travels a lot with your bike and you're concerned that the airlines are going to destroy your bike, particularly maybe like those rear seat stays, it's nice to have a robust aluminum frame set. And then the last point, which I think is what really has resonated with some of the other people who are excited for this Blackheart as a company, is the fact that you get to basically order custom colors and do a completely custom build should you decide to purchase a complete build.
Okay, let's just blitz through all of the specs on this complete build so that we can get to the most important part of this video, which is what this bike is like to live with on a day-to-day basis. So size 58, Blackheart alloy frame. The group set we're using is a Generation 1 SRAM Force eTap, and we are going 1x. So as you guys can see on this 1x, the chainring is a 52 tooth Aero chainring courtesy of PassQuest. You can get this on AliExpress for probably like 45 bucks. The cassette out back is a 10 to 28 because it's super flat here in Chicago. As far as SRAM rotors go, we have a 160 in the front, 140 in the rear. And then we have some of my favorite components ever. This is an oversized pulley wheel with ceramic bearings, courtesy of Nova to Ride. I do have a 10% off code for that. And then I'm also using from Nova to Ride. This is their T47 outboard bottom bracket, which also has ceramic bearings as well. Then we have these Keo blade carbon pedals with ceramic bearings inside of the pedals. The crank length is a 172.5. I'm probably going to switch to 170 on this particular build. Of course, we have the SRAM/Cork spider based power meter. Really, really nice. Now, as far as the wheels goes, these are some Aero wheels, as you guys can see. We have these courtesy of Magine. These are their flagship XR DB607 Ultra wheels, 67 in the rear, 60 in the front, wide internals, and then I'm rocking 30C tubeless Continental GP5000 tires. Moving to the saddle, we have a SWorks power saddle. This is a 143 millimeter width saddle with, of course, the carbon rails. Then moving to the cockpit, we also have another component from Specialized. This is their SL7 SWorks Stem. It's 140 millimeters in length, and then the angle is -12. And then we have these nice carbon Aero handlebars. I'm really sad about this because these are from a brand called Prime that was selling out of the UK, but unfortunately, these have been discontinued, so you can't get these anymore. But these have a width of 38 centimeters, Supacaz Bar Tape. And yeah, overall, guys, I'm really impressed with how this build turned out.
Now, out on the road over these past few weeks using this Blackheart alloy frame, I have used this frame set with a set of mid-depth wind space hyper wheels with TPU inner tubes and 28C tires, as well as a set of deep dish Magine wheels with 32C tires running tubeless. And the first thing I noticed, regardless of the wheels I use, was just how absolutely bulletproof this frame set feels. It feels kind of like a fast divvy or a city bike, you know, those bike rentals you would use in a major city. Basically, it feels like you can plow over anything. It doesn't matter how rough the pavement is, if there's potholes, if there's salt, there's grime. This bike just feels absolutely bomb proof. Now, of course, because the frame is alloy, it is firm as you would expect, but it's not jarring. And I think this is the most important takeaway that I've noticed experiencing this Blackheart alloy frame is the ride is actually a bit more refined as you would expect versus say something like an LA Sprint. Now, of course, the LA Sprint is intended for a different application. However, with this bike, it is a lot more refined than I was expecting it to be, regardless of the wheels or tire combo. Now, of course, because again, this is an aluminum frame, you really can't get around the weight. It's just something that you're going to feel, especially when you are out of the saddle, really putting down the watts. But, you know, it is what it is. Another point I want to talk about quickly is just about the steering. Now, the steering inputs on this Blackheart alloy frame, it's very, very predictable. Now, of course, this is going to be dependent on your tires as well as the length of your cockpit, but there are no surprises, especially when you are getting up to speed. And we do have a couple of minor descents around here in the Chicagoland area, but I did notice just that the steering is very, very predictable. Now, the one area where I think that this bike lacks a little bit is at least when you are under that heavy load acceleration, when you're really putting down the power, it doesn't have that immediate urgency as a Specialized LA Sprint. But again, the LA Sprint is more of a rigid frame. That frame is a little bit more jarring, even though I like that feeling. And that bike really is intended for racing, versus this Blackheart alloy frame is not. But speaking of pushing the bike towards its limits, whatever limits I can really do in the middle of winter time, but I did do a few intervals on this frame, as well as some sprints, as well as, again, those basic descents. And what I've noticed is while the tube shapes themselves don't exactly lend the frame to being fast itself or being about speed, you can easily counteract that by simply slapping on a set of deeper depth wheels, which is the reason why I use two different sets of wheels before making this video. The frame overall, it's not twitchy, the bike is very stable at speed, and just the overall ride, it really lends itself to long sweeping corners rather than trying to bomb into an apex at 30 miles an hour. This far and through is an all-around bike, not necessarily in terms of terrain, but just for the specific road applications, meaning if you're doing a lot of solo rides like myself, the occasional spirited group rides or coffee rides, or if you're just someone who really enjoys having a custom bike that you don't have to think about as soon as you get on it, this frame should be on your list. And especially at the reduced price and the ability to support a boutique brand here in the United States, this brand makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing I want to mention that I forgot is this is Blackheart's own design for this alloy frame. It is not an open mold, despite the fact that just on paper and the way this frame looks, you know, it does have classic proportions, but it is not a open mold frame according to what Blackheart has told me. Now, of course, you could argue that there are cheaper alloy frames on the market, and that would be true, but that's not why you would invest in a Blackheart alloy frame, in my opinion. If you're someone who can appreciate the brand's mission statement, as well as their lofty goal of just trying to inspire any and every type of human on earth to get into the world of cycling without completely overpaying for a frame set or a complete build, especially as an American brand, then I would say definitely take a look at Blackheart's current offerings. So that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Once again, thank you to Blackheart for sending me out this frame for testing and review. I've been really enjoying it over these last few weeks. It's perfect for the winter time, and it's nice to have a custom bike that you can use even in the winter time. And I just can't wait till the weather warms up here in the spring so that I can really get some super long days out on the road on this, because I know I'm going to enjoy everything that Blackheart has to offer. So as always, guys, questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.